Well, usually I try to pride myself on being the contrarian, but no, there was really not much to complain about with this first episode, giving it a really solid 9 out of 10. I would hesitate with a perfect score. There were a few things that were a little clunky and bizarre, I assume because I'm totally new to the games, so I'm only concentrating on the television aesthetic, that they sort of did a few camera movements or a few plot beats just to mirror the games. And from what I understand from the other reviews, it's a very one-to-one thing they try to do to mirror the games. So if you're totally new, let me just go through the very, very broad structure, and then we'll get into vaguely some particulars, because this was a very good episode. So I think it is marking a very great moment in television history in HBO. And let me be clear, fascist corporation, they've done a lot of crazy, stupid things with Game of Thrones, Zack Snyder, things like that. So I'm not sticking up for Warner Brothers. It's really evil corporation. So broadly, this is a kind of post-apocalyptic tale about a virus getting out of control. And we're going to be following Joel, a father who's kind of disillusioned, has lost many loved ones, and him teaming up with Ellie, who is not his daughter, and who he develops a very strange relationship because he's going to have to try to ferry her to a certain point in the United States. And again, because this is the post-apocalypse, it's very, very dangerous. So we've got a very fascistic military kind of style government. There's a kind of loose government, but governments don't really exist anymore. And we've also got these roving marauders out in the outskirts, somewhere around. And of course, the zombies. And the zombies come in different types and classes. And I thought for the most part it was structured and paced fairly strongly. We spend just enough time with the normalcy of the beginning parts where we get a sense of how people are just living everyday lives. Nothing is going too badly, but then slowly but surely the world is unraveling and everything just collapses on top of itself and they're just in over their heads and Joel is just trying to survive. He's become very amoral, just doing what he has to do, cutting these very ugly deals with anybody just to get ahead. And he's really locked himself in emotionally. So I think Pascal has been getting a lot of rave reviews on this, and I think I agree. Again, I'm knocking 1 point off because I understand they're trying to have him mimic Joel visually as much as possible. So the way they're doing his hairstyle, his mannerisms, I get it. It's a very method style, but sometimes it looked a little cartoonish and silly. It didn't quite make sense, but I understand it's there for the video game fan. So, but it did feel a little bit unnatural at certain points. But overall, the casting and the acting was very excellent. I could nitpick one or two things, like with certain shots, it just felt weird that they're just so close together. Maybe that's due to the pandemic. Again, that's still a real thing, so maybe they just couldn't do that many crowd shots. That was a little weird. In terms of scale, we do get a good sense that this is a very, very global pandemic and that everyone has been affected and humanity has been basically plunged back into this very barbaric age. Again, I wish there was a few more moments for expository kind of speeches for those who are totally new. I'm okay with learning things, but I understand if you're totally fresh to this, you'll be a little confused about who the players are. Like, what is Fedra exactly? You're going to have to piece that together slowly. And why do we have different classes? And there's a major issue here with the spores, because it might seem a little bit too easy, as we're going to see later on, that, quote, the zombies get killed, but they don't seem to have any self-defense mechanism. That's there in the game. If you, quote, kill a zombie, spores will be unleashed, but not here. So they did make a few concessions to the visual medium to sort of give us the actors' faces. We can see their movements much better than we can in the game. So there are a few concessions that may be a little awkward in translating from the game to the TV program. But overall, it's a very, very strong translation. I'm very eager to learn more about The Last of Us. I was unfortunately spoiled about a few plot points, so I wasn't as shocked as I should have been at a few moments when very early on, characters we are going to grow to like just get taken out. Again, it's not Game of Thrones, but it is a very hard edge. I could only complain that the plot beats were a little too predictable, and I did sense this was getting a little too close to Stephen King's The Stand. It definitely felt at points that Neil Druckmann is very much borrowing from Stephen King, even The Dark Tower, at various points for the story. But maybe that's just me, maybe I'm seeing things, but it did feel the borrowing went a little bit too close to stealing, at least in my humble opinion. But overall, very strong start to a very intriguing series. I'm very eager to watch this episode again and watch the future installments. And already fans are theorizing about where they're going to go, where they're going to diverge. And I know it's leading to a place that was very divisive for fans. It's very intriguing all the way through. So I highly recommend The Last of Us.